Queen Elizabeth II, who has been in charge of Britain for the last 70 years, has died at the age of 96. Now, the carefully thought-out plans for what will happen after her death are in motion to make sure that the change goes smoothly and with respect. Here's what you need to know about those plans and about the Queen's funeral and what it means for the royal family, including the new King Charles. Today we will discuss the 10 things will happen now that Queen Elizabeth II has died. But before we start our video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon as well. So, let's get started. 1. Operation London Bridge will go into effect. Multiple sources say that the plan for after Queen Elizabeth's death is called London Bridge, but it's not really a secret anymore. Details were leaked to the press, so we know almost exactly what the protocols are likely to be, says Nicoletta Gullis, an associate professor of history at the University of New Hampshire who specializes in modern British history. She says, behind the scenes, things will happen with the exactness of a military operation. To control how information spreads through the British government and the rest of the world, it's important that the chain of communication goes exactly as planned. When Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, died in April 2021, the same rules were followed. 2. Code words will be spoken. Gavin Hughes, who is in charge of the Irish Conflict Archaeology Network at the Centre for Medieval and Renaissance Studies at Trinity College Dublin, says that when Her Majesty dies, a number of strict rules will be put into place quickly. The Queen's private secretary tells the Prime Minister and the Privy Council office directly. The Privy Council office is in charge of communicating between the monarch and the government. Gullis says that the Queen's private secretary will use the code words London Bridge is down, even though this phrase is no longer one of the biggest royal family mysteries. Hughes says that the Prime Minister will then hold urgent calls with the Cabinet Secretary, the most senior civil servant, and the senior cabinet. Gullis says the sad news will be shared by the Foreign Office with the 15 governments where the Queen is head of state and the 39 nations and the rest of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is an association of independent former colonies where she is still a symbolic figurehead. 3. There will be an outpouring of grief. It's possible that the normally stiff upper-lipped British people will show as much grief as they did when Princess Diana died in 1997. Most people have never lived in a time when Queen Elizabeth wasn't queen, so they have no idea what will happen when she dies. The death of the monarch who has ruled for most Britain's whole lives and for as long as almost anyone can remember will be a time of great grief, separating people from Britain's past and from everything they have ever known, says Gullis. We have to expect it to be overwhelming, and I think we'll see a lot of tears from a people who are usually very calm. 4. The bells will toll. The royal ceremonies of the British monarchy will start in London. National flags will be flown at half-mast on all government and public buildings, like churches and the royal palaces, in England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, Hughes says. Gullis says that this should happen within 10 minutes of getting the news that she has died. Hughes says, as soon as the news of the Queen's death comes out, there will be official gun salutes in London, Edinburgh, Belfast, Cardiff, and other saluting garrison stations. Church bells will also ring in churches all over London. Westminster Abbey's famous tenor bell, which is rung when a royal person dies, will be heard. However, the Westminster bells will be muted, as they are on most sad occasions. Even St. Paul's Great Tom will ring. Some stores, theaters, and sports games might close or be cancelled. Before the funeral, which Hughes says will likely be in 10 days, the country will be in mourning. Hughes says that during this time, full information about the royal funeral and the National Minute of Silence will be released. 5. Prince Charles will immediately become king. Even though some British people don't want Prince Charles to be king, there will be a lot of rituals and ceremonies when he replaces the Queen. However, he doesn't need any of that to become king. That happens right away. As soon as the Queen dies, Charles becomes the sovereign, a change that is almost magical and is marked by a ceremony and the law the next day, says Gullis. Operation Spring Tide is the code name for Charles taking the throne. After the flags have been lowered and the cannons have been fired to mark the death of the Queen, the Prime Minister will meet with the new king for the first time. All of the members of Parliament will gather to take an oath of allegiance to the king. This is to make sure that the new official head of state can take over without any problems. This was also done a few hours after King George VI, the father of Queen Elizabeth, died in 1952. 6. Charles will take the throne. Several ceremonies will be held to solidify the position of the new monarch, such as the new king speaking to the nation. He will give a speech on TV, which everyone in the country will surely watch. The next day, which is D-Day +1 in Palace Code, Senior government officials will announce Charles's accession to the throne at St. James's Palace in front of a crowd of dignitaries, Gullis says. Then, Charles is likely to be named king and take an oath called the Accession Declaration. In the whole city, heralds will read a proclamation, trumpets will sound, the flag will be raised again, and cannons will fire as a royal salute. The coronation won't happen for a few months, though, to give people time to mourn and get ready for the ceremony. Once the Queen is laid to rest, the palace will plan Charles's coronation, which will happen a few months after the funeral, Gullis says. Fans of the Netflix show The Crown will remember how the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II was acted out in 1953, more than a year after the death of her father. 7. Charles will be addressed by his new title. When they take the throne, British monarchs can choose their own name to rule under. King George VI, who is Queen Elizabeth's father, was born Prince Albert and was called Bertie. He chose to be called King George, though, after his father, King George V. Elizabeth didn't have to make as hard of a decision because her name is similar to that of another great English queen, Elizabeth I. Before the Queen died, there was talk that Charles would choose a different name, maybe George, after his grandfather, or Philip, after his father, because the first two Kings Charles were involved in the English Civil Wars. He will be called King Charles III from now on. 8. King Charles will tour the home nations. Even before the funeral for his mother, King Charles will get to work. After a short time of mourning and official condolences for the family, King Charles will go on a tour of the UK before the funeral, visiting Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, Gullis says. During the tour, he will meet with leaders, go to services, and meet people outside. All of that must be hard to do when you're sad about your mother, but Charles has been preparing for this moment his whole life, so he's sure to be ready. Also, going to meet his people could do a lot to keep the people's good feelings about the new king strong. 9. The Queen will have a state funeral. Gullis says that on the 10th day after the Queen dies, her body will be moved to Westminster Abbey for a state funeral that will be attended by dignitaries from all over the world. In the UK, there is no law that says how many people can go to a funeral, but there may still be rules about who can go. The day of the funeral is going to be an official day of mourning in Britain, says Gullis. The palace is worried that there will be so many people that there will be delays and traffic jams. But it will be up to the bosses to decide whether or not to give their workers a day off. 10. The line of succession will change. Now that Charles is king, one of Queen Elizabeth's grandchildren, William, will move up and become the next king. After Charles is crowned, William will become Prince of Wales in a separate ceremony, Gullis says. This will happen after Charles is crowned. The next person in line for the throne is usually called the Prince of Wales. This would make Kate the Princess of Wales, but since that was Diana's title, Kate may choose something else out of respect for her late mother-in-law. Queen Elizabeth's great-grandchildren, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are now second, third, and fourth in line to the throne after the Queen's death. Prince Harry is still in fifth place, which is below them. So, these are the 10 things will happen now that Queen Elizabeth II has died. If you like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel for more top 10 informative videos. Press the bell icon for latest updates. Thanks for watching.